Good. How are you? Good to see you.
I want to just dive right in. Can you just share with me a little bit about who you are, what you're doing? I want to hear a little bit about your sports background, your fitness background.
Yeah. Ever since moving to New York, kind of got into the CrossFit bug. Started drinking that Kool-Aid, found a really phenomenal gym in New York. And then the training with that sort of really opened up the athleticism across the board on things with all the different skills that you have to do. And then nutrition wise, as I said, as things just kind of evolved, you begin to get a little bit more refined. And then stumbled on Lumen a couple years ago, and I was like, oh, well, maybe this could be a great tool to incorporate into things. And then
What made you say, I have to try that? This looks like it's great.
I think it was just something as simple as just a targeted ad on social media or something like that, or some website, and saw it and was like, oh, all right, well, let's check what this thing is. And I think the biggest helpful thing, and because I know keto has gotten a lot of steam in recent years, and the big push of, people are like, oh, you enter into this permanent fat burning phase, and like sorry, I'm getting calls coming in. You enter into this amazing fat burning phase where you have all the energy in the world and your body just like throws fat off of you. And you've got all the strength and endurance. And I had played around with that and had felt miserable. And I was just,
Did you try, did you try keto?
yeah. And so I think this is kind of one of the things about the perfect timing of this was I was like, let's just see what happens. You've never done it. Give it a trial run period. Biodiversity, every single person's body responds differently to things. I don't, like Joe Rogan uses this example where he's like, I eat a peanut, I'm fine. He eats a peanut, he dies. Our bodies, everybody's body responds to things differently. You just have to accept that too. And it comes to diets and training and how people respond. So I was like, let's give it a whirl. And so I was doing it. It was a show where I had to have my shirt off every single day for the show and this and that. And I was like, all right, well, we got to look good for it and this and that. But I had the discipline dietary wise to be sticking with it and was still training, but I just felt like my energy levels were plummeting. In order to like test ketosis to see if you were in a state, you had to like pee on a stick to see like how it was like working. And I think it was just that thing that was so frustrating is then you eat one thing, you're out somewhere, somebody's having a birthday, and you're just kind of sitting there looking at the cake and you're like, well, if I eat that, it's going to throw me out of ketosis and then it's going to take me 3 days to drop. So there's this whole thing of just not knowing where your body was at with things. And so having the real time where you are at right here and right now data that Lumen provides was incredibly appealing, to just be able to take this thing, breathe into it a couple of times and then go, I know right where I'm at. And so then as things evolved, and now fast forward a couple of years, I think I was talking to some friends about it. And I think one of the things that's so advantageous about it that drew me into it is sort of that real-time data in terms of carb cycling, because it's not low carb, it's not high carb, it's adaptive, and it's carb cycling being shown to be super effective within the fat loss world while still maintaining that level of athleticism. That was that other thing when I was trying to do ketosis, and I say, I put that in quotations because I'm like, I was probably screwing it up and not doing it right. But I just felt like my athletic performance too was just dwindling.
And when you were doing ketosis before you got Lumen, were you in the CrossFit phase at that point, or were you focusing on at that point?
I had tried CrossFit before, but it wasn't at the consistency level. And I remember I actually signed up I joined my gym right after that period because I was doing just traditional bodybuilding split workouts and then just on a treadmill, walking, sort of trying to do some interval running because I, again, wasn't a good runner. And so I would just but I would do work on the treadmill to just clock calories and to just get extra cardio sessions in. And then it was when I got back to New York, I took a class that was a sort of like group fitness cross training class. And I was like, man, I'm looking good. I've been like hitting the gym. I've been working out on a treadmill. And then I got in there and I just got my butt handed to me by people. And I was like, I thought that I was in good shape and I'm just run down. And I was like, I need to switch this up. And then joined the CrossFit gym and was like, all right, with the ketosis thing, it visually got me there for a role, but I was like, it's not sustainable. And I think that was the thing that I was like, my quality of life is actually suffering through this diet. And I was like, you won't stick with it. And I'm like, again, appreciative of trying it and looking at it. And I was like, but that thing for me, I was like, my quality of life is hurting.
So how long have you had Lumen now?
So I have had Lumen since this late fall, right around winter. I think it was yeah. Yeah, I mean, so again, luckily being one of the early Indiegogo people, I was pretty high up on that, like the mailing list of being like, you were one of because I really did. It was like the moment that I saw it, and again, just that thing of that hook of that real-time data, I pulled the trigger immediately on it. So I've had it since this winter, and then have been the learning curve of going, oh, okay, that's how it's working and this and that. And I credit it in being such an advanced piece of technology that you go, okay, so, and there is a little bit of a learning curve, but it's good. And the questions that I have, I'm able to get it answered in this and that. And it's been fun now just for the past couple of months, incorporating it in, dialing it in, figuring out how it fits into my routine has also been the helpful thing of going, okay, now I know how to use this and to mesh it into what my normal training and 9-to-5 life is like to maximize the results.
So you used it when you did the marathon in the summer, or when you did the marathon recently, or not yet?
No, I did not. Okay. So I had not used it. And so it's interesting because I did the marathon. So the endurance events that I started doing would be this past spring through fall.
Okay.
So the marathon was back in late October.
Okay.
And then it got cold out. I like hurt my right foot a little bit. So I was like, oh, I'm going to like take a month off, just let it recoup. And then it was the dead of winter. And I was like, well, there's no races. It's cold outside. Let's just keep doing things in class. And so still doing fitness and you're running on treadmills in class, but the actual going out for long distance runs, I wasn't doing. But now that I have my Lumen, paired with like the Nike Run Club app, because again, I have no idea what I'm doing as an endurance athlete. So I just go, what the app tells me, run this far today. And I go, okay, great. But now using Lumen, case in point, I this past Saturday had to do a 10-miler, and long story short, for a scene that I had to do for an acting class, I was eating ice cream in it, and it was supposed to be a low carb day. And I'm sitting there filming the scene, and I'm like, I'm eating an entire pint of Ben and Jerry's before I'm going out for this run. But using Lumen, I was able to I was like, all right, well, you've got this 10-mile run coming up. We're able to hit this. I used the calorie tracking app to calculate it. And I was like, all right, so this is how much we're over. And I was like, all right, if I actually don't take in more carbs today based off what Lumen's telling me and how much room I've got, I think we'll actually be good for the day. Did the run, felt great because carb loaded on ice cream all morning, and then woke up the next morning still on like a level 3.
Oh, well, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean,
but it's just that thing of how Lumen has, with knowing when my body's fueled up and going, you're able to tackle a 10-mile run right now versus I went that morning. I was like, maybe I should actually do this later in the day, because right now it's telling me I don't have enough gas in the tank. Okay, let's do this. Let's do the scene. You'll find a way to cheat in some calories so that at night you're able to do a 10-mile run. And it was still a 10-mile run. So it's tough for me, but I go, no, that was comfortable. You could have kept going for another few miles.
Nice. So talk to me how Lumen fits into the whole picture for what you're training for, like kind of your day.
I think the amazing thing that Lumen does is it gives you that real-time data to let you know sort of where your fuel tank is at any given moment.
What's the thing in your head that, you know, you go, you know what, I want to take my breath today with Lumen. Why?
I think one of the important things is adapting it into that it is the morning routine, and it just being part of the daily process. And that's one of the things that since I've had the Lumen of going, oh, right, you forgot. Oh, right, it's that thing. Is it just becoming, it's that thing. I wake up, first thing I do, I was like, you make the bed, walk over, sit down, check the Lumen, you know, check the measurements. And it's that thing of it then will set the tone for what the rest of the day is. And so luckily with doing cardio first thing in the morning, it gives me something to check in on. But for me, it was just a thing of, I just go, it's the morning routine now. You just, you bring it, you bring it with me. You wake up and it's just that, I think you guys said something where you're like, you just add it to your morning cup of coffee. It's like, it's your morning cup of coffee and checking the news and this and that. And you do it. And the thing that's so great about it is it takes 90 seconds to get the total thing in. And then you're good for the day. And then and then there's this psychological game too, of you wake up and you're like, all right, come on, 3 or lower, 3 or lower, 3 or lower. And then I was like, 4, come on. Like, you know what I mean? You're like, all right, okay, we got to do better today. But it's so helpful again it's like case in point, waking up and you go, oh, I'm at a 4, man, I'm bummed that I'm not lower, but how helpful is it that I now know and we're able to adapt and game plan for it, versus otherwise you would have just gone about whatever your old meal plan was, and whatever that day was, you were going to be doing it, and you could be taking steps in the exact opposite direction than you should be going. And it's that thing of, you're like, it might not be the result that you want to see, but how much worse would it be if you didn't have that data?
Well, what do they say? The truth is hard, or the truth hurts, you know?
Yeah. And the other thing is that I think is important is the consistency of trying to take measurements at a similar time and this and that.
Wait, so I want to know, you know, you've given me all this data. The most important piece, what's your flex score?
So it's that thing of, I go, yeah, so it's like an 8.3 or something. No. And I go, but the thing that I'm like, what I was just saying, where you're like, oh, the truth hurts, that I'm so grateful for it, is I go, right, with how crazy adaptive your schedule is with things, and how just even within your training, it's totally crazy. And I go, it's like you've got a Lumen flex score of 8. And I go, yeah, it's pretty crazy on how all over the map I am. Also dropped the body fat percentage in the past week. You know what I mean? So it's that thing of that I go, it's this like of how it's still trending in this thing. And I'm also super curious to see now, I'm like, well, where will my measurements be if I'm starting to wait the proper 30 minutes? But what's one of the most important things? It's that morning score when you're getting stuff afterwards. And it's just been super, super helpful.
That's awesome. So I want to say thank you so much, because that's like the perfect point to end it on.
You're welcome.
You're perfect. No, it's awesome. Thank you so much.